In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called Playoff Mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on Playoff Mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
Milo's Pro Rewards members. Go big during Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. Buy more and save more with up to 20% off job site essentials like primed finger joint boards when you spend $3,000 or more. Plus, get up to 25% off PVC DWV pipes when you spend $250 or more. Shop Pro Savings Days at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 1/23. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit Lowes.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
Hello and happy Monday. Welcome to Phillies Therapy. We join you on this Monday, January the 12th, 2026, in a different set of circumstances than the ones we left you last week after we hopped on for our first podcast of this year. At that time, we lived under a different set of assumptions. And that set of assumptions was the Phillies were probably just about done with their offseason. They were maybe still waiting on JT's decision, but also thinking about what kinds of contingencies they could put in place. Apart from that, wasn't a whole lot left to really think about. Maybe some depth starters, maybe some, interesting signees to give a spring invite to. It was just kind of like a cruise control kind of feeling as we started this year. Not so fast, my friends. Late last week, as we approached the weekend, my co-host, Matt Gelb, Phillies beat writer of The Athletic, dropped a report that the Phillies had scheduled time to talk with Bo Bichette. Potentially, as we record right now here on Monday afternoon, the two sides are still talking. We don't really know. The fact is, they're talking. And they're talking about a deal. They're not just checking to see how everybody's New Year's was. No. There might be something going on here. And the Phillies might not be done with their offseason after all. There is a lot to unpack here. It is a strong pivot of what we thought we knew about the rest of the Phillies offseason. It carries with it a lot of ripple effects. Signing Bo Bichette means a lot of things for a lot of different players. We're going to try and go through all this stuff. It's all hypothetical right now, but the Phillies' interest is legitimate. There are multiple writers, reporters, people covering this sport and these negotiations who maybe even think the Phillies are now the favorite. This, of course, comes in the wake of the Chicago Cubs signing Alex Bregman. So there's a lot going on here, and I need help to talk through it all. So who better to bring in than the guy who released that report, who wrote that report last week that gave us this pivot that really caught our attention and all of a sudden got us thinking about what an infield with Bo Bichette might look like on this Phillies team. He is, of course, Matt Gelb. Matt, hi. I feel like the last few days, really since the report came out late last week, has just been a complete whirlwind. I still kind of feel my head spinning a little bit because I was just not expecting this at all.
You must have not watched the Eagles.
Yeah, well, I watched what I needed to.
I think there's a lot of questions, right? And I guess the natural starting point is like, how did we get here? And to what your point about, people in the sport believing that, not only the Phillies, in here, but they are the favorites. I don't know that I can sit here and say that they're the favorites. Like, I've been asked this a lot the last few days. I think they are certainly in this, and it is real. And
wow.
I don't think it's a negotiating ploy against JT Realmuto. Like, I think this is real. Like, this is a real thing. And I've spent a lot of time last week, trying to verify and get a good feel for just that, right? Because when you first hear some details about them being interested, you're like, okay, duh, yeah, of course.
Yeah, right.
Bo Bichette's a good player. And they need good players and they could, rearrange their infield if they had to. But I think initially, like, this is how I understand it, is that the Phillies didn't really think this was a possibility for much of the offseason. I think for most of November and December, I think what was being said and reported and written was accurate. I mean, they had prioritized their own free agents. They were in a position where they couldn't add another major long-term salary, uh, just given the situation with the payroll, given the situation with the roster, what they would have to move around, how they'd have to rearrange things. But I think circumstances did change, and I think it's a combination of things. It's the fact that, yes, JT Realmuto remains unsigned, and two, I think that Bo Bichette's price became more palatable. Possible price became more palatable for the Phillies. I think the fact that they are involved in this indicates to us that no, he will not be signing for $300 million. I think that's fair to say. I mean, I don't know if that was a number that had been thrown around, before the offseason started, or early in the offseason. I would be really surprised if Bo Bichette signs for $300 million. Based on that, I think just how Bichette's market has unfolded, uh, I think that the Phillies just feel like that there was an opening here, and I don't think they felt that way until sometime in the last 2-ish weeks, maybe even less than that, because I do think that there was. I think there was a thought internally that, like, the Realmuto situation would be resolved at some point, and that would be that. But because it hasn't been resolved, I think it just gave them more time to just kind of go through different scenarios and say, well, like, what if, like, this was a possibility? And I think they were unsure, it seems like, about how much interest there was on the other side. Like, what was Bo Bichette even interested in coming to Philadelphia?
Yeah.
And I think once they did get some indications that yes, he is, and in addition to that, the price that it would take to sign him is within range. I think that they jumped in, and not only have they jumped in, from what I understand, I mean, like, I think they've done a lot of work on this, and that includes, like, if you're going to jump in on this, like, you have to come up with your counter moves too, like because signing Bo Bichette, hypothetically, of course, would force you to not only rearrange some payroll but rearrange pieces on your roster.
Yeah.
And talking to other clubs last week and other agents, the Phillies had been doing just that. They've been doing a lot of work on what it would look like in a Bichette world for them. Where would they be able to offload a player? What catcher could they, really pounce on quickly to fill that hole? Because yes, they will still have to, acquire a catcher if they sign Bo Bichette. So I think, looking back on myself, I'm kind of like, well, was I too dismissive of this idea? And the answer is yes. I guess I was. I think I'm just naturally skeptical when I see.
Yeah, I was. For sure.
I see the Phillies used often, and I think the Phillies get frustrated by this at times too. I've heard this from people in the front office. That they feel like the Phillies are often used as a stalking horse, right? Especially when it comes into January, because the Phillies are a big market team that operates as such, and Dave Dombrowski loves star players. And so, whenever there's a star player out there that hasn't signed yet, it's like, oh, well, the agent is just trying to make sure that he's putting pressure on other clubs because he's, the Phillies are interested too. I think I was probably too dismissive of it. And I also think I was a little overly skeptical that the Phillies would do such a pivot here at this time of year, especially when it comes to a player like JT Realmuto, who, as far as I understand it, there is not a scenario that has the Phillies signing both Bichette and Realmuto.
Okay.
To make this work, my understanding is that it's an either or. And I see both sides of it. I think it's a fascinating debate you can have. Like, I think, we've discussed Realmuto quite a bit. I think we all are understanding that, like, he's, in the twilight of his career. We know what he does bring to the Phillies, especially on the defensive side when it comes to the pitchers, et cetera, et cetera. I wonder, how it would go over with the pitchers and with the clubhouse. Like if they do move on from Real Muto, I would think that if they're moving on from Real Muto to make such an acquisition like Bo Bichette, that it would be received well. And it's just like, okay, well, that's business, that's
Yeah.
how it works. Maybe not, but I see people getting really excited about this, and I think that's great. That's cool. Like I appreciated the response to the report, and it was something that was not published lightly. I mean, like I was trying
Sure.
to really figure out like what are the intentions here, right? Like, is this meeting or is this interest solely from one side to try to uh, help a player's market out? Was it to try to put pressure on another player? And everything I gathered and all the information I had and talking to different people what was no. Like this is a thing.
Fascinating. Do we think this is far from the list of most important things to talk about with this move, but do we think the official addition of Don Mattingly had something to do with that? Mattingly, of course, was with the Jays the last couple of years. There are reports that the two of them are pretty close, or at least get along very well. Is he involved in this in any way, do you think? Were you able to suss out any information regarding his presence here? And because the timing seems to line up, at least.
I mean, I don't think his presence hurts. I would say this, like, um, it was probably one of the like worst kept secrets in the industry for most of December was that the Phillies were going to hire Don Mattingly. The
Fair
reason
enough.
why they did not hire him sooner is that he was still under contract with the Toronto Blue Jays through December 31st, and the two sides just agreed to let that contract expire, and then he signed a new contract with the Phillies. I'm going to venture a guess that sometime in December, Bo Bichette knew that Don Mattingly would be hired by the Phillies. So I don't know that the timing is necessarily something to draw, to try to connect the dots here. I do think that certainly Don Mattingly's presence, it appears, will not hurt the Phillies case because yes, Bo Bichette and Don Mattingly have developed a strong relationship from what I can gather and talking to people who um, were with the Blue Jays or around the Blue Jays last 2 years. Um, I think Don Mattingly was involved in the meeting today. Now, all of this said, Paul, like it's free agency, it's a big player, like
Uh-huh.
money matters.
Sure.
Money
Sure.
matters more than anything. But does Don Mattingly's presence, possibly help the Phillies case? Sure. I don't think it hurts.
Yeah. There's still some thought, the Phillies aren't running out ahead of the pack here. There are other big market clubs who have possibly even a better fit and need for Bichette, who could make a move regardless of
Who
what
are
you
more
think,
desperate, I think, too,
or more
and more
desperate.
motivated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
regardless of what you think about particular front office strategies, Red Sox, there is definitely a very real chance that Bo Bichette still signs elsewhere. All the momentum for whatever that is worth and all of the public perception is on the Philly side right now. It has been a very pro Phillies Bichette union last like 5 days. That is very true. But there is definitely a world in which the Phillies do not find a way to get agreeable terms in front of Bichette. That's absolutely realistic. In fact, probably even more likely. My thought of this whole thing is it's elevated me from, this time last week I was at 0%, not thinking about it at all. And now it seems around like a 25%, I want to say, which is still higher than it's been the last couple of days. Like
What's that
it's
meme?
picking up.
What's that meme where the guy is sitting back in the chair? You're now leaning forward. Is that right?
Yeah. You know what? Yes. Yes. I am.
I don't even know what that's from. I'm just yeah.
I don't either. Yeah, the visual is what I'm vibing with because I am leaning forward a little bit. Like the interest being real, the market apparently signaling that it has come within a more palatable range for the Phillies. The Phillies obviously signaling and have now for more than a calendar year that they're ready to move on from Alec Boehm, and the dominoes that could fall from the signing of somebody like Bo Bichette would accommodate shuffling Alec Boehm out of the picture, right?
Possibly. I think so.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, like we that's a tangent, real quick. So yes, I think that the in talking to people, the likeliest contingency, right, or the counter moves that come, if you are to sign Bo Bichette, are that you walk away from Real Muto, and that Bohm, they think, they think there are spots they can get Bohm to,
Uh-huh.
and get off of the 10.2 million, and so there's a good debate here. It's like, well, why move Bohm when you're not really sure if Bo Bichette can play third base, which I do think has been a piece of discussion within the organization for the last week. Where would he play?
Yeah.
I think there's some who think
so.
he's not going to play shortstop, right? This is not a displaced Trey Turner thing. This is does he play second base or does he play third base? And if he plays second base, you're like, well, okay, would it be easier for us to trade Bryson Stott and keep Alec Bohm for the least amount of like disruption on the infield? Would it be easier to just slide Bryson Stott over third base, which is where he has played there a little bit. He made his major league debut there, funny enough.
Right.
But now you're taking away a guy who we think is a pretty good second base defender, probably a potential Gold Glover.
He's excellent.
Second base.
Yep, top 5 for sure.
And are we doing too much rearranging of the deck chairs here? Is this too much? I think that Bohm makes more sense to go simply because he is making more money, and money is going to matter here. And 2, because he only has 1 year of club control left, and Stott has 2. Mm-hmm. And generally, I just think that they like Stott more than Bohm. Whether that's valid or not, I'm not sure. I mean, because you could look at both guys and be like, well, I don't know. Like, which one are you picking right now if you're trying to think about the next year? It's a good question. It's probably closer than you think. I don't know. Right? That was a quick tangent. Because then there's a larger question to be, you started to allude to it, is like the market.
Yes.
Okay, like the larger question is about the current market now for Bo Bichette.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cubs signing Alex Bregman is a really interesting development, right? For a lot of reasons. And
very interesting.
And because it puts the Boston Red Sox, firmly in the crosshairs here. Will they overreact to not getting the guy they wanted and go make a really big offer to Bo Bichette? I think that's fully in the realm of possibility. Will they instead pivot and replace Bregman with a few moves? Do they make a trade for an infielder? Do they go sign another bat? Would they be in on JT Realmuto if Bichette goes to Philly? Would they trade for Alec Bohm if Bichette goes to Philly? I mean, wow. Like maybe, I don't know. I mean, like that could be one. It would make sense. I think there's other teams that make sense too. Pittsburgh, Anaheim.
That was for Bohm, right?
Yes. Yeah. But the market at large right now, I think the Red Sox are obviously, right there, and you're wondering like what is the reaction going to be to not getting Bregman, because it seems as if it's not. It goes beyond like an angry fan base, right? It seems there seems to be a lot of hard feelings up there right now. I think that the Red Sox thought they were going to sign Bregman. They thought they made a good offer. They did not make the best offer. They moved Rafael Devers out of town to accommodate Alex Bregman, and all of a sudden he's gone. That's tough. That's tough. And it almost, dictates that they go make a splash. And this would be the easiest guy to make a splash on because he would fit. The Dodgers, Paul, are always there.
Always.
The best I can understand it at is that the Dodgers will come in with their high AAV short-term opt-out kind of thing. I think that is real. I think that they will be doing that with Bichette and Tucker. I guess the layer on that right now is like, do you want to be accepting a high AAV contract with an opt-out that could put you back on the market with a lockout looming? I think that has to be part of the calculus here, and I think that makes that structure a little less appealing than it normally would, right?
In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called playoff mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on playoff mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
Pro Savings Days are on at Lowe's. Get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, My Lowe's Pro Rewards members get an additional 5% off when you buy 5 or more select GE, Whirlpool, and Electrolux kitchen or laundry major appliances. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 123. Discount valid to My Lowe's Pro Rewards members only. Exclusions and other restrictions apply. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. See associate or Lowe's.com for details. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
Yeah, I would think so, because even if you're somebody who's like, well, I'm not going to get paid for as long as the lockout lasts anyway, if it lasts for a long time and we have game cancellations in 2027, it's a real possibility. We don't know a ton right now, but it's not like that's unlikely to happen necessarily. And you are out of game action for a while. I don't know, like that would have to be a long absence to really matter that much. But I guess it's something to at least consider. I would worry about a team coming in hot with a high AAV short-term deal. And that's why I think, the Dodgers are very much a real impediment here to the Phillies' chances. The Phillies don't have that level of desperation really, because their infield is good, even without a player like Bichette. Alec Bohm and Bryson Stott are good players. Stott gives you, league average offense as a second baseman with very, very good defense. Alec Bohm gives you a major league caliber player at third base, which is, not something a lot of other teams can claim. And then you have 2 all-world guys at first base and shortstop. Like, that's still a good infield. You don't have to say that not signing Bo Bichette will put you at a severe disadvantage going into 2026 and beyond. Because I don't think that's what would happen. I think the Phillies would still be a very good team, and it would take a lot for them to not win, 89, 90 plus games again. But there is something missing from this offense. And there aren't many players who can give you the kind of approach and production that Bo Bichette does. Because Bichette is not somebody who is going to come in and change this team's selectivity and, quote unquote, plate discipline lacking, up and down the lineup, where only a couple of guys really work counts lately. Bichette is a free swing. He will hunt. He is up there to put the ball in play and get hits. He'll hack. The good thing about him is he has really good barrel control, and he can make contact a lot of the time, even if he's swinging at pitches that aren't textbook strikes. And when he does hit the ball, it's usually hit pretty well. He's not a pull guy. He is a throwback in the sense that he is a true line drive spray hitter. He would hit the ball all over the field. That is something that the Phillies lineup doesn't have right now. You could say that adding something like that and adding that wrinkle to the lineup is crucial to getting the Phillies over the hump. I could see that argument. I could understand where we're coming from here, because we have dealt now with multiple postseasons in a row where the offense has really been the thing that's let them down. So bolstering that, adding to that, making sure that the offense is more supported than it has been the last couple of years, making sure that the Schwarbers and the Turners and the Harpers have another bit of backup there, because the rest of the lineup has kind of not really done that, including Nick Castellanos, by the way, who is still under contract and on this roster.
Who?
Yeah, right. Who? His fate yet to be determined, however much money they may save there. So I can absolutely see that the Phillies have, it's not a need. It doesn't cross into need territory. But Bo Bichette is the kind of hitter, just hitter. I know that there are concerns about where he could play on the field, what kind of athleticism he has left, even though he is a younger free agent. It's been kind of a downward trend that has left him scoring pretty poorly on some advanced shortstop metrics. He wouldn't
Not a
play
shortstop
there
anymore.
Yeah, right. He wouldn't play there anymore with the Phillies if he signs here. May not play there anywhere, wherever he signs.
I don't think he'll be playing shortstop next
Yeah.
year for more than 30 games.
Yeah. Okay. So that's something to consider as well. But the Phillies have room at those other positions, and they can make it work. I like that this has happened. Maybe not for Bichette missing out potentially on $100 million if he thought he was coming into this offseason, and his 9-figure deal was going to start with a 3. That appears to not be the case anymore. But for the Phillies' sake, to be able to be in this position to add another younger than 30 star caliber hitter to their team. It's kind of a really good Groundhog Day where this kind of keeps happening. The Phillies are in the market for these guys. They've been more, fierce and adamant about the guys like Harper and Turner, sure, but having more guys, Kyle Schwarber kind of fell into their laps post lockout in 2022. They were just like, yep, let's go for it. They signed him, they signed Castellanos, and it's just like, whoa, all right, we have a 4 and 5 year deal out there now. All of a sudden,
it's true. That's a great example. I mean, that was, yeah.
So I like that this has happened. It happened very, very quickly. And it was a whirlwind of a week toward the end of that week. When you dropped that report and read it, I'm just like, what is happening? And the more time has gone by, there's been time to think about the potential drawbacks. There's a lot that would come from signing him. We've just barely talked about the different moves that would have to make in order to accommodate him, much less probably be, even though it won't be a $300 million deal, another guy making $20+ million a year on the books.
25 plus, I would assume.
Yeah. It's a big deal, literally and figuratively, but I like that it's here because I do think he gives the lineup something it's been lacking and something that could work in the middle of this lineup. Batting first, second, wherever he actually ends up.
It is a big inflection point. It would be a sizable pivot. Do you have any pause about another long-term contract to a free agent?
Sure. And I think we're at a point now where they're signaling, the Phillies are, that they're approaching the end of their money, their current money.
Well, just also, but like they're signaling that it's all or nothing in the next 2 to 3 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And whenever that ends, it might get ugly. I mean, it might get ugly.
But isn't this, I think about this from a fan perspective and trying to think about maximizing the window, which they have been doing the last couple of years. They absolutely have been doing that. I have mostly been a fan of the very, very significant long-term moves they have made to create this core that they have had for the last 5+ years, right? It's largely been successful. They are winning in the mid-90s the last couple of years. They're going to the playoffs. The only reason they lost last year is because the Dodgers are also really good, and that was as good of a 4 games out of a best-of-5 series as I think you could get. And the Phillies were just the ones that lost. All right. It's been a bummer the last couple of years that way. But man, they're getting there. They're getting to the playoffs. They have good teams, and these guys are still good. But that window is shrinking with that core. It is. It is. It is not over. You are not at the precipice. You're not about to walk off a cliff. But the deeper you get into the 30s in this sport, the more likely it is that you will start to significantly slip. It is not a guarantee. I am not doing the Dombo thing to Harper right now, even though he is somebody who is 33. He's been playing at the major league level for 15 years. Like it's something to think about and have in your mind. These next 2 years, maybe 3, definitely 2 in the Wheeler window, they might be it. You might just need to put all those eggs in that basket and say, these are the seasons. If we are going to get over the hump, if we are going to finally make it happen, the best way to give us the best incremental shot over what we already have, which is a good team, is to do this again. This being sign a really, really talented hitter to a 7+8 year contract for 8 figures in the 20s. That just might be the way.
I agree. I'm going to give you two things. How much better do you think they are in these 2 scenarios where you have Bichette plus mystery catcher for $35 million or Real Muto Bohm for $25 million?
It might just be that I'm talking myself into the shiny new thing a little bit more lately. I'm willing to allow that. I've tried to correct myself for that. I think they're a better team with Bichette and dealing Bohm and going with a catching situation 2 out of 3, let's say, that include Stubbs and Marchand to start. I know a lot of people are talking about like Victor Caratini as a fallback or something like that. We don't know what the approach
he's
might be.
Definitely one of their fallbacks.
Yeah.
So they would go out and acquire a catcher.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be really, really surprised if they did not acquire another catcher, a major league caliber catcher, if they do indeed sign Bichette.
And I think that leaves them with a better team. I know that we have.
I think so too. I just think that but that's what it is. Like that's the math. It's like it's Bichette plus mystery catcher for about, I don't know, I'm spitballing, 35-ish million total between those two. And then the other scenario is Real Muto and Bohm for 25 million.
Here's what I do to talk myself into this, because we've spent a lot of time, and it's very real, talking about how JT is in the locker room and working with the pitchers and the coaches and everything. Like he plays a critical role in pitch calling, sequencing, game planning, and a lot of things that kind of add hidden value to his, declining offense. But if he goes, the way I would talk myself into that and being okay with it, thinking that it's not as far of a drop off as it looks, is that Marchand and Stubbs have been around him for a couple years each now. They may not have his mind and his eyes and the time put in working with all of these pitchers in game action. No, that's really hard to replicate. But they've been in the rooms. They've been working with him and Cotham at the same time. They've been around. This could be their chance to prove that they have learned something. The offense is what it is. I think it's very funny that Rafael Marchand continues to hit like more home runs at the major league level than he ever has in the minor leagues. Probably can't count on that happening for too much longer. And Garrett Stubbs himself, also not much of a power threat. So you'd lose some offense, even a diminished JT probably out hit those guys.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be sacrificing a lot of offense at catcher if you're going this route. And you'd be fine with it because you're like, well, we just signed Bo Bichette.
Yep, that's where I'd be. And I think it would not be as far of a drop-off as it may look for those reasons. Maybe that's coping. I don't know. I think it sounds pretty logical to my own brain. I'm convincing myself my own arguments.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. I mean, one of them is the most obvious one, which is that Bo Bichette does not turn 28 until March.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it is certainly rare to see a player of this age, be a free agent. He came up very early. Obviously, he's the son of a big leaguer. For comparison's sake, I mean, Trey played his first season with the Phillies at age 30.
Yeah.
That's 2 years on the front end here with Bichette. As far as like where he fits and what does he is his style something that suits or enhances the Phillies offense? I think yes. I mean, I think in my mind, like you would be going Trey 1, Bo 2.
Yeah.
And that's
what
appealing.
It reminds me of? It reminds me of when Placido Polanco was batting second. I mean, Bo carries far more pop than Polly ever had, but it's that same kind of contact first approach.
Sure.
Like it gives me that kind of vision. Anyway, I jumped right in there. Keep going, please.
Both guys hit 300 last year, which I know batting average is not the the finest measurement of offensive production, but I do find it interesting that the last time a club had 2 300 hitters qualified for the batting title in a full season, that would have been 2019, the Boston Red Sox.
Wow. Really?
The last time the Phillies did it was 2007.
Wow.
They had 2 guys qualified for the batting title who hit 300, and that was Aaron Rowand and Chase Utley.
That was a mythical year for Rowand.
The idea being, if you do have, and they're very similar profiles offensively, if we're being honest, Turner and Bichette.
Yeah, I could see that.
You would have 2 guys at the top who, and they're not same profile athletically, but same profile, at the plate. I think approach and results. But you have 2 guys who, could really stack hits at the top, and the idea of having those guys on base often in front of Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber is quite appealing. And I understand where he fits, and it makes a lot of sense. I mean, price matters here. I think that's part of this. I suspect that Bichette will have 3 doors he can open. Door number 1 is a short-term high AAV contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Door 2 is a similar structure to what Boston offered Bregman, which was, roughly, we think, with some deferred money, like 5 years ish, 160 ish million, right? So it's like kind of the middle tier where you're getting, not as long term of a deal, but a little bit of a higher AV, an AV that starts with a 3.
Yep.
Okay, a 5-year deal with an AV that starts with a 3. And then door number 3 is a 7 to 8 year contract with an AAV in the high 20s. And I think that's the Phillies door. And I don't know that there's a wrong answer for Bo Bichette there. I wonder, though, I think that's why there's been some, why you've heard this sort of optimism about the Phillies, because I do think that, like, I think what they would be offering, it sounds like, might be different than what what he might have elsewhere. And maybe it's an option that he chooses.
With regard to fit and actually getting Bichette on this roster and understanding what not just 2026, but the years following would look like if we assume, at least 7 years, let's say, on a potential agreement. There are still the unsolved cases of Nick Castellanos and his $20 million. Taijuan Walker, who it sure seems like will be one of the 6 viable major league starters on this team entering the spring at $18 million.
They could look to move off some of his money. That is one scenario here too, if they have to clear some money.
Okay.
Yes.
Then there's
I don't know how much you're clearing off that though, right?
Yeah,
we discussed
that's right.
him. He's a league average 5th starter probably.
Yeah. There is Alec Bohm and his just over 10 million as recently settled, which we've discussed. There are also impacts to players who have their own free agency coming up soon. First and foremost among them, to my mind, Jesus Luzardo, who is in a walk year at $11 million, recently agreed. He is somebody who could be a casualty of a move like this. If the Phillies are really pushing the top of their budget, they're shaking out the scraps of paper from their purse or pocketbook or wallet, whatever you want to say, and just every last cent has to come out to accommodate a move like this to maximize the core for this particular season. That Luzardo could be a guy who might not find a fit on this team because he's somebody, if he has another year like 2025, where he could enter the market and absolutely command his own deal of, 20, 25 plus $1 million.
More than that.
Yeah. And the Phillies they probably don't have room for that. They probably can't do that again. You never say never. Look what we're talking about right now with Bo Bichette after 2 months of the exact opposite almost. But it sure doesn't look likely. So there are things to consider that go beyond just the 2026 dominoes. I would hate to lose somebody like Luzardo. I think what he showed last year was real. The health is an issue for him, but
this is further down the line. I think, but yes, all these decisions they're making right now the club is considering the now and the later. And I think all of this has to play into it is because we keep talking about, the money that comes off the books after 2026. And that's real. We're talking about just $38 million alone in Castellanos and Walker. There's other money too. $9 million for Alvarado, $10 million for Adolis Garcia, $10 million in Alec Bohm. Like if we're assuming he's on the 2026 roster, there's money there, but I think, that there's other guys who are going to get raises. There's other guys who have to get care of. And so if you're just saying, well, we'll go a little over now and that money comes off and then it's found money. It's like, maybe not. I guess the Wheeler window that we talk about, he's making $42 million this year and next season. Now that's real. When that comes off, yes, you'd be losing, one of what we think to be one of the better pitchers in the sport. So yes, you're losing $42 million, but you also have to, replace Zach Wheeler hypothetically. Sure. So, I think as long as Wheeler's $42 million salary is on the books, it does, it's gonna make you have to carry really high payrolls. And so, the effect isn't, if you're signing Bichette to high 20s AAV, it's not just on 2026. Obviously, I think there's still some stress in 2027. To your point about where does Luzardo fit in, all really good questions, and I think all things that they have to consider. But it's it's not hard to see how they got here once these different circumstances came together. Real Muto not making a decision and Bichette coming within range, and there not being, I'm not saying he doesn't have a market. He very clearly has a market. We've outlined it, but maybe not being as robust or as deep of a market for Bichette than anticipated. I think all of that has really, changed the outlook here.
In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called playoff mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on playoff mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
Member Week is on at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off hundreds of items like appliances, home essentials, decor, and more. Perfect for your January reset. Plus, earn 5 times the points on an eligible purchase. Shop member deals in-store and online from January 8th through the 14th. Still not a member? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help, you save. Point boosters subject to exclusions and more terms apply. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Visit Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change.
Yeah. One last thing to add on, any potential signing of Bo Bichette by a team that is not the Blue Jays, who do seem to be out of it for the moment.
I don't think the Blue Jays are signing Bo Bichette.
Yeah. The Phillies and any of these other teams, like the Dodgers specifically, the Yankees,
Mets. Yeah. I don't know what's going on with the Mets. They're very hard to read right now.
Yeah.
Yankees, I think there's some real major posturing in public happening between them and Cody Bellinger, and I would be really surprised if they don't sign Cody Bellinger.
Okay.
I still think that's going to happen.
I remember last we saw that they had like a 5-year offer out and Bellinger was still seeking 7.
Very public negotiation.
Like yeah, it really is. The Yankees have a way of just making that stuff really well known. The Phillies would have to give up draft picks and international pool money for whatever you might care about that.
There's some factors here.
Yeah. That would be their second round currently, their second round and their 5th round picks. I believe I have that right because it's the 2nd and 5th highest selections in the coming draft. I don't think the Phillies have anything in between in the compensation rounds that would change that.
No, they don't get comp picks.
Yeah.
They will. Like when Suarez signs
with Ranger. Yeah. Okay.
It's confusing. Does any of this matter?
It might not. And they would also give up $1 million.
Brian Barber, who I know this matters greatly to him. What his bonus pool looks like.
Well, yeah, you lose $1 million, and I know that out of that pool, and I know that they've been linked to a player who would be one of their more significant international signings in a while. I've of course,
but that isn't that for next year's pool though?
And that's another layer of confusion that I can't quite get.
It does not affect their pool for this year.
Okay,
The pool that opens later this week, and yes, they will be making a major signing there.
Great. Okay. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. There are roster moves to be made. Them. Yes, It absolutely affects them. It changes their draft.
There's a lot of ripple effects.
Yeah.
To this. Some of them obvious, some of them not so obvious.
This team is far down the road. We're coming up on it, friends. Like labor situation aside, that's also something to consider, but leaving it aside for a moment.
Yeah.
There's so much happening. This team is truly the Wheeler window is it right now. There could be ways to extend that. Maybe Aiden Miller goes supernova and all of a sudden he's the next core. I don't know. Anything can happen. But right now, it's the Wheeler window. These are the stars. This team that we have right now is the set of guys that has been chosen, that has been signed, that has been placed on this team to get them over the hump and get their first World Series since 2008. If they let Bo Bichette go somewhere else, or to phrase it differently, if another team signs Bo Bichette, because it's not all up to the Phillies here, they're still good, but they would have been better with him, to me. And they just got to hope that.
Are you at the point now where you're going to be legitimately disappointed if they don't sign him?
No,
have you gotten your hopes up to the point where you're you're too far in?
No, I'm at the point where I am excited that this is a real possibility, but I am still very much trying to be, and I think succeeding to be realistic about this, knowing that I have doubts about the Phillies being a quote unquote favorite. I don't know as much as you know, or that your colleague Ken Rosenthal knows, or that Bob Clappish knows, or anybody else who may have used that term, that word to describe the Phillies and Bichette's current situation. I coast on vibes here. I pick up, I'm putting my ear to the ground a lot of the time and literally trying to feel the vibration of footsteps to try and get a read on some of this stuff.
That's weird.
Yeah, I know. But you do what you got to do, right? It works for them in the Lord of the Rings. Which is a real story, by the way. I just have to figure out what I feel and think about this whole situation. I think there could be a fit, even if it's complicated. I think Bichette would make this team better. I also do not think it is probable or likely that the Phillies get him and sign him. They very well could. It's a good chance. It's far above non-zero. It is not above 50%. And that's where I'm at right now. It's an exciting chase. It is an exciting injection of energy into this offseason, but I am not waiting on bated breath for an imminent announcement of an agreement to come out of this meeting that is happening today on Monday.
Yeah, I think all that's right.
That was an interesting hesitation.
I don't know. I mean, like, I think they have a shot. And a better than, like, it's not a long shot. Like, I think they have a shot. And the way people are talking about this, I think there's, they're going to find out in this meeting, they think that there's, strong mutual interest. But I mean, I think that Bichette on his side is really interested in the idea of the Phillies. And I think that could, help, even further help get something done.
Okay.
I will say this, like, I think that I don't think this is going to drag on.
Yes, I agree there. Yeah.
I think this is going to be a resolution. I'm not saying today or tomorrow, but I think, I think within a week or 10 days, like I would be really surprised if there's not like a resolution here.
I could see that. I could definitely.
Bichette also, like, he did get married last 2 weekends ago, not this past weekend, the weekend before that. That's one of the reasons I believe why this is a Zoom call and not like an in-person meeting. I don't know if he's on his honeymoon, but I know that he had been doing, there'd been a lot of wedding stuff.
Oh, cool. Okay. Congratulations.
So that also was part of it. But the Red Sox, I think, loom as the as probably the biggest threat here, I think, because we're not really sure how they're going to react to, missing out on a guy that they really wanted to sign. Now, do they like Bichette as much as they liked Bregman? I don't know, and I'm not sure that they do.
Crucial question. Yep.
Also, the Red Sox, and I'm gonna botch this because I wish I would have remembered where I read it so I could check it, but they haven't signed a free agent to like a longer than a 5-year deal in a long time. Like a free agent. I know they signed Devers, they've done long-term extensions, but they haven't signed a free agent, I don't think, to like more than 5-year deal in a long time. Doesn't really seem to be in their organization's DNA anymore, which is weird because that's not how I think about the Red Sox when I think about the Red Sox. But if Bo Bichette wants guaranteed years, Paul, like, I don't know. I think it's possible that the Phillies are going to be the team that's offering him the most years.
Wow.
We know that the Phillies love offering years.
They sure do. They sure do. I'm looking at it right now. One of the first names that came to mind for me was Pablo Sandoval with the Red Sox. That was,
how many years was that?
2015. He got 6 years and was cut.
Oh my God.
In the middle. Yeah. 6 years, I want to say. That may or may not be correct, but he's one of the guys I thought of first. They do love giving years though, Matt. You're right. And it sounds like they're prepared to give another 3/4 of a decade out on the table. Hey, it's wild. It's great. The last few off seasons, we'll say the last 7 off seasons, going back to, the one that landed them Bryce Harper, have been so wild to me as somebody who grew up watching and rooting for this team in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s, on before, the golden age core emerged and landed them a title toward the end of the 2000s, because, well, and even then there were some constraints on what they did. The way this team has elevated itself to the very top of the sports spending, not limits, spending environment, has been something I'm probably going to look back on and be like, wow, that took years, but it still was pretty quick. How quickly they went from a team that had to trade away Cliff Lee the week they acquired Roy Halladay because they couldn't fit both on the payroll, when Lee was operating on, what was it, a $9 million club option for the coming year. And now we're talking about adding a sixth or seventh guy making 24, 25 plus $million potentially. That's only 15 years ago. Well, 16, I guess. It's 2026 now. That's a lot of years, but it still feels like, as someone who grew up with that era of this franchise, pretty recent history. But it's so far in the past now compared to where they've placed themselves. It's wild to be having this conversation what feels like every offseason.
Yeah, and even if this doesn't end up getting to the finish line, again, the fact that they are in a position where they could, hypothetically do a pivot like this at this point in the offseason, and at this point where your payroll is already, where it is, that does say something. Now, I don't think that any fan is going to be excited, is going to be like, well, like, at least they tried. I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe nobody's going to care about that. But the fact that they could even entertain this scenario, I mean, yes, it speaks to, the way they're run, I think, right now. Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And for the Red Sox, they have one free agent signing of more than 5 years since 2015.
Okay.
And that was a Trevor Story deal that had an opt-out before, so I'm not even counting that.
Wow. Yeah.
Should I count that? I guess you can. But that's it. That's it. No contracts of more than 5 years in the last decade, basically.
All right. So that's where we sit. That is where we are here on January the 12th, 2026. It is a strange yet wonderful time as a fan here on the outside, wondering what the outcome of this Monday Zoom call with, the department heads and leaders of this organization are saying to try and get Bo Bichette to join their team, join their lineup. And man, that would be fun. That would be fun. This team will still be good if Bo does not come here, but man, it would be fun. So we'll see. We'll see what happens over the next week. I agree with you, Matt. I get the sense, my feeling is that the way things have transpired lately and the way the reports have come out and, timing, cadence, language, all of that stuff is combining to say, yeah, we're probably getting close here. Alex Bregman signing, of course, I think accelerates it that much more. We're probably getting to a point where we're going to know something within the next week. I would be surprised if we don't, personally. But we'll just have to see how it goes. I liked that Ken Rosenthal on one of the fair or foul territory, I can't remember which clip it was, basically likened this call to the Phillies might, adopt the approach of, don't let him leave the building kind of thing. Like, hash it out, make the deal on the call. Maybe they do that. I don't know. I think that's fun to imagine. We don't know if it's still happening. We've just reached 3:00 Eastern here on the 12th.
3:00 on the East Coast.
3:00 and all is what? Do you know where
January
your children
12th.
are? I was kind of hoping this would turn into the latest in the Matt Reacts series.
No, this is not happening today.
Anyway, I'm excited. It will be a slight letdown if Bichette goes somewhere else, but I'm realistic about it. I'm clear-eyed about it. I know where this team sits and what they can accomplish with or without.
We say if he goes somewhere else on if let's say he goes to Boston for a monster deal, like more than 30 per for 8 years. At that point, how do you react? Do you say, nah?
I don't think the Phillies go there, so I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's cool that they were in it. I would not expect them to offer that much. I wouldn't. I'd be fine with that. And maybe at that point, it's just a tiebreaker of maybe the Boston situation feels like it suits him better. And we could be getting into intangibles at that point, beyond Don Mattingly being the bench coach. Anyway.
Certainly. Yeah.
So that's that. I think that's just, I think that is a fairly accurate, if long, summation of what the situation is regarding Bo Bichette and the Phillies, because there is a lot involved here and it is coming together. It is still in progress of potentially coming together very quickly. There's a lot to digest and a lot that would still have to happen if Bichette does agree to sign with this team. So stay tuned. The offseason will not end with Bichette signing with the Phillies. There would be more to come. If he signs elsewhere, yeah, maybe things calm down a little bit more. This feels like a special exception at this point in the offseason. Who knows? We'll have to see how things go. We'll have to see what this week brings, potentially. And keep our ears to the ground like they do in that true story, The Lord of the Rings.
I can't even, yeah, I can't get my ear to the ground anymore. I'm too old.
Oh man, you're telling me I got to stretch more. Anyway, that'll do it. That's the end of this episode. Thank you everybody for listening. If you want more before things really pop off, to talk about it, to hash it out with fellow sickos, patreon.com/Phillies Therapy. We have a Discord server. It's very active. It's a great community. We're adding to it almost every day. We'd love to have you be part of it. More things to come as the off season continues. We would love to have you. Come chat with us. That'll do it. This has been Phillies Therapy, part of the Believe Podcast Network. For Matt, I am Paul. We'll talk to you again soon.
In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called Playoff Mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on Playoff Mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.